Recording in progress.
abutters, and we're gonna have time for that. And if there's any other comments, if you want to raise your digital hand and
I'm not seeing any, Jay. I know Neil Foley is with us tonight. He may have some comments on the landscape.
when we get to the landscape, okay? All right, so we have none for just general, and we'll ask again when we get to the Lynch landscape. Meeting minutes, we have none. So we can move on to that. New Lynch Elementary, OPM update. Andy, you gonna take that, or Mark?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So MSBA communication update. We had a meeting with the MSBA last Thursday for a kickoff meeting with Bright Builder, Tape, and Hill, just to talk about the construction, starting construction, the requirement from the MSBA. It went well. Their next site visit will be on the end of May. We're trying to finalize the dates with them, and then the other one will be in July. And at the meeting last week, we asked about the PFA bid amendment, and we asked if they can send us at least a draft by the end of this month, and they said yes, they'll get us a draft of the PFA bid amendment, so we at least know the reimbursement amount, the finalized reimbursement amount. So they're targeting for the end of the month. So I have for, let me share my screen for the project update. All right, so construction, oh, hold on, sorry about that. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so construction update. What we're concentrating right now is completing the demolition of the existing lynch. I will have a picture on the next slide that I can share. And then we're working on the water line, the sewer line, and the drainage, as well as the building footprint. Also, we're working on the foundation of and the footing of the new Lynch Elementary School. Right now, we have a date for the groundbreaking is the March 22nd at 2:30 p.m. We have confirmed that the MSBA will be there. And then, as I mentioned here on the MSBA update, is the PFA bid amendment. At least we're going to have a draft version from the MSBA then at the end of this month. I mentioned the MSBA kickoff meeting last Thursday. And then also the upcoming will be the end of May and July, the next two meetings that we're trying to finalize with the MSBA. Here's the existing, here's the existing Lynch Elementary School building. We took down the entire building. Next is the foundation that they have to work on. It's probably going to be another week or two before they can, start digging on the existing foundation up. This picture was taken probably late last week, so this is our current right now. Here's a picture of the overall the foundation and the footing. So Bright Builder work, at this they break it up into three parts. So this part here on the northeast section, they call it the C building. And then the B building is right in the middle. And where A building is where the gym are. So they're working toward from the C to B to A. As you can see in this picture here, they finished the footing in this area, and they started, they finished the foundation wall here. And then they worked toward this way over toward the gym. So that's the sequence of work that Bright Builder is working on. As you can see, they finished some of the footing here at the gym also at the north side of the building. Next, I have a regular dashboard that I'm going to present here. So in February, we're concentrating, to finish the abatement that we completed that in February. And then, as you saw it earlier, the building is completely down. We're working on the demolition of the foundation of the existing Lynch School, and also, we're starting the we started the demolition in February, but we're still ongoing with the foundation. The continue with the footing and the foundation work, concrete pouring, that's still ongoing. Next month in March, as I mentioned, we try to finish that probably next week. We should be wrapping up with the foundation of the existing Lynch School, and then continue working on the utility work, the footing. So we updated this section here now that you can see the whole baseline schedule. So we're targeting, again, steel. We're gonna hopefully get steel by the end of this month. And the roofing, we'll start the roofing in May, and then hope to get that done in September. And then, we'll have the slab on grade, slab on deck at the same time, fall on the roof. So our target is try to get, the building weather tight by December of next year. You can see that the window here, we have it start October 2024, and then finish that in December of 2024. So hopefully by the winter, we'll have a weather tight. So we're targeting to finish the MEP as well in April, late April 2025. So we'll start the commissioning and get the building substantially complete for June 27, 2025. As of right now, we're right on schedule. And then again, we'll move in, get furniture in after that. So the target is try to get, between July, getting the furniture in, and then move the teacher in before the fall. So we're right on schedule. Cash flow, right now, we don't have any change order for Bright Builder. We had one. The first change order was a zero cost. So there isn't anything new. And we're right on the cash flow. We're right on, as you can see, we're right on where we are, So with that, let me jump onto the my monthly report, January. So remember, this is the January monthly report. So you're going to be seeing like some work that happened in January. So if you remember, we had Bright Builder sign the contract in at the first week of December, and they were mobilizing in December. So in January, they start mobilizing, working on submittal RFI. They started the abatement. And they start, removing trees, and not a lot of stuff going on in January. They did some site prep in January. So, like the abatement of the building, and then they start removing the window as part of the abatement in this picture here. So, so that's where we are in January. The monthly report is on the Google Drive if you want to review it in detail. So how cash flow is also on here on the January report. And then, as I mentioned earlier, in the February, we're catching up on our cash flow as the contract is starting to mobilize. And then we have, the schedule, a draft. So in January, we had a draft schedule here. And then we also have in February the baseline schedule from Bright Builder. I'll go right into that. We also have in as part of the attachment the weekly OPM report. It will have like the manpower count. So like here we have a total of like about 62 worker a week. It'll go higher as we move into toward the mid of construction. So I just want to go into the February report really quickly. So in February, we So at the end of February, we finished about 75% of the demolition of the existing building. And then we started the site work, removed soil, started the foundation work, the water line, the drainage. So that all happened in February. Let me go right into the progress picture here. Again, these two report are on the Google Drive. If you have any question, you can email me and then I'll get you the answer. So this is also part of the gym. It happened in February. They as you can see in this picture, they started to pour the footing, but the picture that I showed earlier was more recent, so you see more work completed. Here is the northeast corner C building that I mentioned. As you can see in February, they didn't have that foundation wall yet. The other picture that I show is more current. So these are all the progress that happened in February. And then here's another pour at C building for the foundation wall. So yeah, we've been working with UTS to get them out to do the rebar inspection, the foundation, the concrete as well, and that's been ongoing every day. Here's the picture of the water line, the insertion valve that was installed. The oil tank, this was cleaned and removed off site. This happened in February as well. Again, this is another demolition of the existing lynch. And then here's another picture of the foundation work at the new school. So I went over the financial already, and then if you have any question, if you need to review this in detail, go ahead and it's on the Google Drive. If you have any question, please email me. We'll go back to any question.
I have one quick question for you. I know we went over it, and then Don's right after me. How are the winter conditions? Is that an extra to us? And I'm sure we won't have electricity by December of 24. How are the winter conditions handled?
So this is a design bid build. So if it's winter condition, usually they own it. They have to provide temporary heater, and they need to, if let's for example, if they fall behind on the window, or they usually would put the poly around it, but they will provide temporary heater to heat the building. We're working with Eversource to get the temp power to the building.
Yeah.
But
The grant allocation will go before the select board, I believe, on what's the last Monday of the month, on the 25th. So after that, Eversource can go in and do the temp power.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what their schedule will be, but they'll have permission to do so.
All right, Don has a question next.
Yeah, I just was contacted by someone that lives in the area commenting about the tractor trailers removing all the debris from the site and driving at what he thought is an elderly gentleman at what was an excessive speed. So I would just ask you to ask the contractor to have the truck drivers that are removing all the materials from the site pay attention to that. I mean, he suggested having Winchester police out there to, monitor what was going on. But I think if, Andy, if you say something to the contractor, that might help.
Yes, we have weekly meeting, and we talk about safety, and yes, we will make sure we'll communicate that with Ray Builder right away.
Please do. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Andy on this? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you, Andy. All right, moving on to the website. Chris is going to update us on the
Yep.
project website.
And you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so just before I bring up the website, just two quick PSAs on the project drive. So Andy was just mentioning the reports that he's sharing with us, you can find in the module sorry, in the, on the project drive under construction administration, it's called, folders called OPM reports. And then the OAC meetings are also, the Hill team has uploaded the OAC reports in case anybody cares to read through those. So I appreciate that. And then the other thing I wanted to share with everybody is that, we received over the weekend the conformed set from TAP A. So that's the bid set, but it includes all the addenda that were rolled into the contract with Brate. So just to manage disk space, we kept the DD submission. That was the one our working groups took a look at and had a whole bunch of comments. So that's all still there. We have deleted the 60 and 90% CD specs and drawings, but we kept the binder. So if you remember, there was a huge MSBA submission at 60 and 90%. Those binders are still there, folders are still there, but we don't really have a reason to be looking at those drawings. We can always recall them if we need to. So we took that off and have created another folder that I think just says conformed set. So everybody, if you look at it, you'll find it's presented in the same way the previous milestones were. So it's all PDF. There's a specification, there's volume 1, there's volume 2. So that's now kind of the latest and greatest that's available to the team on the project drive. So I'm going to pivot real quick to the website. Just a few updates I want to share with you guys. Hopefully you can see this. So we've uploaded a video of progress from February on the homepage. I'll try to do this every, maybe 6 weeks. It's a little kind of dependent on whatever the activity is that's going on out there on the site. Then we have also updated, and this is sort of new. I know you guys are all aware of the Lynch Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Improvement Project. That's really under the town manager's office. I apologize if a bunch of background noise here. So I've reshuffled this bit. So if you remember, this used to lead off with Parkhurst, but we've pretty much settled into that. So all the Parkhurst information is still here. It's now at the bottom of the page. We've pulled the neighborhood traffic stuff back up to the top. This information will be fairly familiar to you. But what I did here is I actually went to Beth Rudolph's page on the town site to provide an update on where we are. Tool Design, who's a civil traffic engineer, made presentations to the neighborhood on February 24th of 24. There was one presentation for Pond Street. There was one for Horn Pond Brook. So both of those are now here. And management has also created a new page for this project. So this link that I have right here brings you right there. And so if neighbors, including the abutters who are with us tonight, I'm sure they're already pretty familiar with this, but anybody who clicks on this can actually get access to those presentation materials. So that's all been updated. And then the last thing, which I know we will also be talking about tonight, which is kind of exciting, is the What About Morocco page. If you've had a chance to review the memo from Frank Hackett, you know the school committee actually voted its intention to submit an SOI for Morocco to the MSBA at the next cycle, opens in January. So there's an update about that here for that community. Frank's memo is here embedded. If you click on that, you can open it up and read it. We'll talk about that a little more tonight. So if you guys do get questions from anybody in your neck of Winchester, your precinct, wherever it may be, and people want to know what's going on with Morocco, you can certainly direct them to this page. And then I'll update this once again once we get through our meeting tonight in case we do choose to put that article on the spring warrant. I think that's it, Jay.
All right. Any questions for Chris? Don't see any. See anything, Chris? Okay.
No, I think we're good.
Moving on to topic of the night, landscape at Lynch. So who's taking that? Chris, are you taking that, Shockey?
Yeah, so I'm going to pass it right along to David Warner,
Okay.
but David's been working with us for a while, a number of years, and on a lot of our projects, and he's worked, in town before. So he's a good resource for all of us, and one of our favorite consultants to work with. So I'm going to turn it over to
of our projects too. So
yeah, so he's one of the best. So I'm going to turn it over to David now.
Thank you for that introduction, Chris.
Yeah.
I'll try to live up to it. So as a webinar person, I guess I can share my screen, so I'll do that. The first thing I'm going to talk about is are my observations from when I was out at the site about 3 weeks ago. And I'm going to zoom in and pan around so you'll all be able to see this in detail. But I'm just starting. I guess what I could do is window and go full screen to a little bit larger to begin with. So it's very typical on projects that after the initial tree clearing is done, that we go and we look at the periphery of the work area to determine if there are any trees that are remaining that might pose a hazard, once the finished improvements are done. So this is not a time sensitive or urgent matter, but it is something that contractors, particularly when you have a low bid, design bid build contractor, you want to scope this all out at once so they have this 1 second shot at the apple to capture that scope. This is additional work because it was not included in the original bid documents, but we can save the town money by doing it in one fell swoop. So I'm going to start over here. This is Pond Street and Brentwood Road. And this is the area where the parking lot with the future PV array over the parking will be located. And we identified trees in this. So one thing I'd point out is that the original survey for this project didn't really locate individual trees within wooded areas. It located individual trees that were standalone out in the open. And in some areas, along the edge of the work, we did locate in some individual trees, and I'll point that out to you. But in this area, the clouded area here was what's shown as trees to remain on the site preparation plan. And I'm going to just pan up to the images. These trees right here, there's a double and then 2 singles in here. There is the one in the middle is leaning right into the one on the end on the north. And this branch right here is causing this tree, there's rubbing up against this tree and causing that tree to create a hazardous condition where eventually one of them is going to fail and fall. So given the shape of the larger oak tree, we made the determination that cutting off this branch would allow the tree to the north to continue to grow and be healthy and structurally sound. So that's just a branch removal, but we did identify that. And this tree on the end does have branches that are growing out into the utility wires, but that is really the responsibility of the utility company and not this project. It is something, though, that should be addressed at some point in the future, but not by Brait, in our opinion. And this other note over here was saying that we wanted Brait to provide spot elevations at the base of these trees so that we could confirm that the proposed grading in this area was not going to pose a problem. And I'll just open up another quick image of that. They did provide those grades. And let me just pull this over onto the same screen. Can you see this new image? Yeah. Okay, good. They did provide spot elevations at those trees and then further along here. And what this tells us is that the grades at the base of these trees are very, very close to the proposed grades along this edge of the parking lot. And so there won't be any significant grade change along there, and it won't hurt those trees. So I think when this whole area was excavated down to the depth for the infiltration system, the subsurface piping that you see in blue here, it may have looked as though this was going to be a lot lower in its finished condition than it will be. But we were reassured with the spot elevations provided by Brait that everything is going to tie into the proposed grades as intended. So I'm going to move around and look at the other trees around the periphery. So over here, which is at the back of, this is where the fire lane goes around the back of the new building. Again, this is the survey marked up as a site preparation plan. So you don't see that base information, but this was the limit of work for the tree clearing. And we have identified 4 large pine trees right in the back here that we consider to be significant hazards for blowdown. When you remove a larger stand of trees and expose particularly pines with only foliage at the top, to cleared zone, particularly winds coming out of the northwest in the wintertime when the wood is frozen, they tend to snap. And these four large trees back here we see as a significant hazard that should be removed at this point, because the fire lane is, we've got these outdoor classrooms that are going in behind the building, and it is going to be a public access way to the fields and an area behind the school that's used by the school for outdoor programs. And then there was a tree right on the limit of work we had indicated for protection, and a lot of the roots have been stripped and exposed. It is an oak tree, and at this point, given the condition of the roots being stripped bare of their bark and exposed, we consider that tree not to be savable anymore. So that's what you see in this image here in the foreground. So then that basically constitutes 5 trees along here that would be removed. And then as you get over, and these are all outside of the riverfront and buffer zone for Horn Pond Brook. And so they're not, a factor when it comes to the tree replacement policy of the Conservation Commission. Over in this corner, the trees weren't actually located, but we identified them from 2 different angles with these 2 photographs. There are a couple of trees in here that have quite a lot of dead wood up inside in their canopy, but they're viable. I mean, they appeared to have, the majority of the branches are alive, and they're outside of the work area and, protected, part of the buffer zone. So we think at this point here, we could just make, and the yellow lines represent where we're recommending cuts to be made, so that these branches that are dead won't be an issue falling, again, along the public access path of the fields. This is just a different angle looking at those trees. And you can see as you come around that corner here, a lot of people will be walking around here when they get to the fields. And then over on Brantwood itself, this is the back of the former school loading service area here. We have looked at all of these trees along Brantwood as we're considering, the context of the new project relative to the immediate abutters, and, at the same time, looking for hazards. This tree on the end is definitely in decline. It does have life in it, but it's probably more than 50% gone in terms of dieback, and it's had some branches removed. You could see that there's, openings in the trunk where decay is very visible at the base and partway up, and it's definitely a hazardous tree. It's right at the corner of the new driveway that's going to be coming in around this corner right here. So we did look at the other trees in the area, and they are Norway maples. They, there's quite a lot of Norway maples actually that make their way up into the wooded area over here as well. And I will be talking about some proposed buffer planting too. So I'll talk about these other 3 trees and why we didn't recommend removing them. They do look to be very viable and in reasonable health, and can live for many more years. And I think that when we take a look at tree removal, we think about the fact that the living landscape is always evolving, and good practice will be to be evaluating these trees over many years and taking down hazards as they materialize. At this point in time, I don't believe those trees are hazardous, and they do offer significant canopy and foliage during the growing season. They are deciduous, of course, but so that's why we didn't recommend removing those. And I do think that understory planting there might be, to augment them, to extend the woodland effect further down, might be a more appropriate response. So, and then just lastly, in this band of trees right here, which we did have the surveyor locate because we were interested to know, relative to the new parking lot that's going in this area, whether any of them might need to be removed. When I'll start at the north end. When I looked over here and there was the new utility pole put in with the temp power coming over, I think there's a pole set right about here. This tree on the corner, yeah, I guess the temp pole I don't think was installed yet. This tree right here has a complete dieback in the center of the crown. And that's an entry point for rot and disease, which was evident through the exposed, former cuts that had decayed that were visible. And that does really compromise the center of the tree, even though it does have viable branches going off to the sides. It was my recommendation to take that tree down because of that. It would coincidentally make, I guess, the temporary power a little bit easier to install because pruning off some of these branches would further disfigure the tree and devalue its character and importance or viability for that matter. And then lastly, we looked at this grove in here, which has a lot of pine trees. And there were 3 trees right along this edge that have branches that extend out considerably farther than the diagrammatic dashed lines that are on the plan here. So you can see down here, for instance, and we did point to those individually in a couple of these views, one looking north in the bottom, and it represents these 3 trees, and one looking south here. Again, even though these trees have been here for a long time, they tend to shed their, pines tend to shed their branches in heavy snow and ice storms. And by putting, parked vehicles underneath of them, which was a use that wasn't there before, this was basically just a landscape area with an egress pathway. We felt that it was important to take these down so we don't have branches, tops of trees, or even trees themselves falling on cars. So that is the extent of the pruning and removal based upon my site visit 3 weeks ago. I didn't know if there were any questions or any more details you'd like me to discuss.
I don't see any. Why don't we move on and then we'll hit everything together maybe?
Okay, sure.
That works. Yep.
So then let me see if I can page down. I might have to go back to window and exit full screen. There we go. I don't know how to go to the next page without getting to thumbnails. So we are aware that there are concerns about the edges of the proposed improvements and how the new parking areas will be seen, from the abutting properties. And so part of my site visit 3 weeks ago was to look at these areas in particular and see what we would propose for augmenting any existing planting that's there. And I guess what I'd like to point out is that this is my, professional opinion. It's, I would say, a first pass or recommendation. I'm not offended if there's any feedback from your committee and that you want to, from the public, that you want to, your committee wants to accommodate, and I'd be very, very happy to make revisions to this. But I'll just simply explain, why I recommended what we did, and then listen to whatever feedback there is. So along this north side of this parking lot, where the original tree line was back over here, and this area was cleared, we have very few trees remaining over in this corner over here. And the canopy that was shown on the survey was actually very, very long branches that extended out from trunks that were back within the tree clearing line. So that's why that vegetation that was anticipated to be there isn't there. I didn't even see this 15-inch tree over here, which was well outside the limit of work. I'm not sure when that was taken out or if that was a survey error, but I didn't see that. So what we are proposing is we have these multi-stem river birch, which are part of the original planting palette, if you will, elsewhere in the campus. And then these large arborvitae, and they're not the narrow ones like you typically see in a hedge form. These green giants get fairly broad at the base over time, 10 to 12 feet wide with time, and then they get quite tall. And I have pictures of those up over here. So these are the green giant arborvitae. I'm estimating these are probably, 3 to 5 years after planting. And let me just go back and say, see, what did we say here? 8-foot height at the time of planting. And then the river birch are up here on the planting schedule. And these are 12 to 14 feet at the time of planting. That's what that is, BN, that label. So, 3 to 5 years after an 8-foot arborvitae is planted, we'll get something close to what you see here, which is probably around 12 to 14 feet. And then if you, take that out another, total of 10 to 15 years after planting, they really can be very effective as a visual screen. And planted about 10 feet on center. The river birch is a multi-stem, and one of the great things about a multi-stem plant or tree that gets, this is not the largest of trees like oaks and elms. This is a intermediate sized tree that may get, 40, 45 feet tall at maturity. The multi-stem gives it a broad exposure of foliage, so that it is very effective at creating a relatively quick growing visual screen. Again, deciduous, but the branches themselves do have a lot of natural character to them. And again, I won't repeat, but each of these images, represent different time, after it's planted, just to give you an idea. So then, I'm sorry, I'm panning around a little bit. I'll stay in that same general area. As part of the planting design, we have these hophorn trees that are they're also an intermediate, kind of an understory tree that would be supplementing the 3 trees that I showed you existing to remain on the previous plan, the site preparation plan. But I use this red cloud to indicate that we would field locate those and stretch them out. Probably bring a couple more down around this corner, but space them out because of those other existing trees that are there. And then there are these evergreen yew, Taxus. I don't know, those are, Taxus is the genus and yew is the common name, that are about 5 feet tall. And they're actually in decent health. They, I think if integrated within a mixed buffer, and we're proposing rhododendron, the maximum rhododendron here, which is it's the largest natural native rhododendron. They can get, maybe 12 to 15 feet at maturity. Really quite an attractive plant, but do take a while to develop. I think that those yews integrated within with the arborvitaes, and then just not trimming them anymore. I think what's happened over the years is that this was always kind of part of the edge of the maintained landscape with the school sign. There were some yews around the sign itself, which were starting to kind of engulf it. I think just not pruning the yews and then having the rhododendrons grow together in a natural buffer, you've got, a mixed evergreen buffer there with some ornamental quality to it. So then these are the images of the maximum rhododendron. This image here is showing it, maybe 20 years out. It does take a while for it to mature, but they are really lovely on, you see them oftentimes, particularly on the North Shore and some of the estates and gardens. That's where I'm from, if any of you were wondering, up on the North Shore. But we were also proposing that we could take some of those rhododendron and mix them in underneath the pine trees, because rhododendrons do very well in acid soils underneath pines. And I think that habitat would be very nice for them. They are set far enough back from the edge of the pavement on both sides, so they really would be out of harm's way for the snow plowing and the snowbanks. And then we proposed another river birch down here, because as I was walking through here, I realized this really was quite exposed at this point right here. And then this was the tree that we showed on the previous plan that we're recommending removal. And so the London plane trees that are marching down on either side of this field and play area, we thought it made sense to just pick up one more of those and put it over here. So adding one tree. They're very fast growing. And this is an image of one that might be about 15 to 20 years after planting. really nice in terms of quick growth and adaptability to a range of conditions. And then lastly, in this zone, which is underneath those trees that I mentioned earlier, we think that they are viable and actually provide from both, the abutters perspective, but also from the school's perspective, looking across Brentwood Road, a nice street tree kind of character. But the way that the woodland kind of tapers down to a point here, we thought that the underplanting in here would really be more of an expression of continued native understory planting. That's, shade tolerant, drought tolerant. That's what these plants are that we proposed, both Viburnum dentatum, which is just the species. It's an arrowwood plant, it's native, attracts birds, and it's not of exceptional ornamental quality, but it's really a nice native plant. And then for some very early spring bloom, or late winter actually, I don't know if any of you are familiar with witch hazel. That's what this Hamamelis virginiana is. And so those we're proposing, 4 feet, which is a pretty good size actually for viburnum. It grows quickly, and Hamamelis, the witch hazel, starting off at 5 feet. So the Hamamelis here, the witch hazel, which is in bloom, it might actually be blooming now. I think late February, early March is when it's season. I've seen a few around, and then more in the summertime. Has nice dark, rich green foliage, turns a beautiful fall color as well. It does drop its leaves in the winter, but the idea, for anybody who's familiar with the woods, how it tapers down pretty narrow here now already, looking at the back of the school, it does provide some kind of a woodsy effect. We're thinking that basically the school would be just maybe mowing along the back of the curve here. And I don't know if the town would ever be doing any mowing along Brentwood Road, but the effect of the woods meeting the road was really what we were intending here. And then arrowwood, this is the last of the proposed plants. And it's a pretty common plant. You may be familiar with it. It does grow broad. This plant here, 10 to 15 feet in height, 10 to 15 years out, might be maybe 8 feet tall and 10 to 12 feet wide. And these are both summertime pictures. It's early summer, like a late May, early June bloom. So that's what we have proposed, and we're very interested to hear any comments.
Okay. Start with the committee first. Anyone from the committee have questions?
Jay, I had a couple of thoughts, but I kind of wanted to defer to the abutters before I offer comments.
Yeah, I don't see anyone from the committee asking any questions, so why don't we open it up to the abutters then?
So Jay, we have Kyle Johnson and Neil Foley are with us. Kyle has his hand raised. Andrew,
Okay.
could you elevate Mr. Johnson?
Yep. 1 second.
Kyle, just give us a moment. When you do get elevated, just check your mic. Be sure you may come in muted.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I think we have Mr. Johnson now.
Yep.
Yes, I've been promoted to panelist.
Right. Can you give us your address,
promotion.
Kyle?
Yes, my address is 1 Brentwood Road. The hand is hovering over my house.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Great. First, thanks for, I mean, I know that this would have been part of the project anyway, but thanks for putting together a thoughtful plan about the plannings. And right, you predicted correctly that there are some concerns on around the neighborhood, including ours. And I think the first one I wanted to talk about is the area adjacent to the new parking area, right where the woods were and cleared. So if the hand were to move up, yeah, exactly where the word lawn is there no intention to plant something more significant there as a site buffer? And if not, why not?
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, would you like me just to go ahead and directly answer questions as they come up?
Sure. Well,
Okay.
yeah, go right ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I just didn't know how formal your process
Great.
was. So the reason why we don't have planting in here right now is because the dashed line here is the outline of the photovoltaic panels that would be located over this bay of parking. And those columns run right down through here. Since hearing your, well, the neighborhood's comments that have been shared back with us, I have inquired through TAP-A, and they're going to be reaching out to the PV vendor just to see if those columns and that PV panel could shift to at least to the back of the curb. That could give us a couple feet along there to expose the ground surface to more sun, and but any planting that might be able to go there would have to be shorter than the PV panels themselves, because we need to make sure that those PV panels are not shaded. I did take a look at your property and noticed, I mean, I'm gonna just share my thoughts, and this is just from an observation standpoint. You've got a pretty decent hedge here, maybe 8 feet tall, I think, right?
Yes.
The sidewalk, and this is the end of your house. Your house fronts facing east. You've got some windows on your two windows on your second floor that look out this way. I totally understand your concern. I want to express that we have very limited ability to do anything there with planting, given the spatial constraints and given the requirement to keep the PV panels exposed to the sun.
Right. Well, so I guess part of what I'm hearing is I would take it then that there's nothing that could be done. It just would have to be short.
Right. We are confirming whether because the PV panels are being procured through a separate vendor.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that this won't be a scope change for them, and also that the construction contractor would be able to accommodate this. But what we're proposing would be no re-engineering of the system itself. It would be taking it in its entirety and shifting it a couple of feet, so that we could get probably 2 feet or 2.5 feet of the land on the adjacent to the sidewalk, where we might be able to plant something like ornamental grasses or something that will grow up 8 feet tall.
Right. That's what came to mind. Yes, actually. And that is a south facing right line. I mean, it's it's not going to be obscured by the PV panels. Okay. I mean, well, I'm saying okay, just in the sense of like I understand. I mean, you can understand how, having lived with woods across the street for 15 years, that the loss of that, that sight sound buffer between us and Pond Street is a loss, and the vista of a new parking lot is not exactly a gain. So yeah, I'm hoping we can come up with something that just makes that a little, makes our daily view a little less of a parking lot that just appeared across the street. Okay. Okay, so then across from our street to the east, sorry, across from our house to the east, is a set the tall pine trees. So we're talking about keeping the pine trees, clearing out some that are clearly not doing all that well, maybe, and having rhododendrons, the ones that grow. I know what you're talking about. They're quite tall. I've seen them around here underneath. It's, yeah, I do. I find myself struggling to visualize this. So, but I have had the sense that the trees are just going to seem a little bit out of place, and the rhododendrons may seem maybe not quite adequate.
Well, I think that rhododendrons as a species would adapt very readily to these conditions. It's the reason why I had shown 3 foot size at the time of planting. What did I say down here? 3 foot height and width. It's very hard to find rhododendron maximum species larger than that, unless you know of a property that's getting cleared and you know the landscaper who can transplant large rhododendron. In the trade, when you're buying these new, they typically are max out around 3 to 4 feet. So maybe I don't know if size is the issue or if species. Do you have other thoughts relative to the type of planting character?
In that space, I really don't. I mean, you can imagine that I think what I and a lot of the other butters are focused on is the height and density of whatever vegetation is there. And then almost to an extent, not that the attractiveness is tertiary, but but it's maybe not as important as having some kind of sense of like separation from the school space. The new school, I mean, in a fairly significant way, differs from the old in that the old, because of the wall of the gymnasium, which I guess like it's something we all got used to, meant that my house particular advantage was we were here and the school was over there, and the school is a separate space. And the new school, with the way that it opens onto or opens toward Brentwood, really almost, I don't know, it's the opposite of claustrophobic. I feel like I'm a little too open to the school, and so having a buffer there is something that I think anyone in my house would probably want. And I can't, I'm not really probably qualified to say whether I think the rhododendrons are going to be tall enough or not tall enough or thick enough. Yeah, no, you've given me a couple of things to think about there. And I also,
the way I'm sorry, the way you worded it, the height and density, I think that, maybe we could look at increasing the quantity or adding another species there that maybe is a little faster growing, that can augment the slow growth of the rhododendron,
yeah. Right. No, that actually, I mean, that sounds appealing. That sounds appealing. Okay, I don't want to take up the entire meeting because Mr. Neil may also have some things to say, but another suggestion my wife had, which I think is a good one, among the vegetation that was lost as part of the clearing were a couple of cherry trees that were really kind of sentimentally important to the school. And I don't know, would there be an interest in planting similar trees somewhere in this plan?
I think that could be quite lovely around the back of the sign up here.
Yeah, yes, sure.
Kyle, also, just so you know that, I mean, nothing's set in stone tonight. They're all going to take this
Great.
back and work on it
Yeah,
and come
no.
back with, there'll be multiple meetings.
I'd be there, I'd be there in person if I thought this were final. So,
Right.
yeah.
No, we have to work with it and come back and David will do a good job of coming up with other suggestions and.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's how I took this meeting. Thank you.
Hey, Kyle, I don't want to cut you off. I know Neil is with us too.
Exactly.
And I want to just ask Neil if Neil, if you have public comments you want to share now, can you just raise your digital hand so Andrew can find you? And there we go. Andrew, so can you bump Neil Foley into our webinar, please?
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for the time.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Neil, looks like you're elevated. You are on mute. So it looks like your mic is on. I'm not hearing. Is anybody else hearing Neil?
I am not.
Neil, we're not hearing you. While Neil is sort of working on his audio connection, Jay, can I jump in with my sort of
Sure.
observation and question? So, David, one of the images we had shared, back in the fall was a rendering of what this entrance to the site looks like from across the other side of Pond Street, given that we lost quite a bit of plantings. And I believe if you zoom in on that area at the corner for me, do I have it right that those larger trees that are running sort of north to south, right at the end of those parking spaces, is that American hornbeam?
Oh, the ones we're proposing, yes.
Yes. So I have an observation and then a sort of a suggestion / question. So the hornbeam is deciduous, right?
Correct, yes.
And I'm thinking about the folks who live on the other side of Pond Street, thinking about fall, thinking about winter and how bare the branches are. And I'm not about to suggest we go evergreen there, but I was actually thinking about like a marcescent option. And I wondered about like American beech. It's native to North America. And it's going to keep its leaves in the fall and the winter. It might actually look quite lovely, and just give a little more visual screening until the spring when the new leaves are coming out. We tend to create images, architects, landscape architects, we create these images typically in the spring and summer when everything is lush and colorful. But I am just mindful of what this is going to be like for the abutters when it's cold and it's winter and the landscape is sort of gone to sleep. So how do you react to a suggestion like that? Is there a marcescent option there that could just provide a little screening in the winter?
Yeah, sure. So also pin oaks tend to hold on to leaves late they eventually, by late winter tend to drop. But no, I think American beech is actually a nice suggestion. There are, I'm just looking at the Carpinus hornbeam here that we had specified. It must have been, it's native and 1-inch caliper, so it would take a while, obviously, to mature. I think, let me go back to the plan view down here. I do think that beeches here, they grow very large, of course, so we have to give them space, but could fit in quite nicely, set back enough from the parking spaces, maybe partway up the slope. It's a good suggestion.
So I would just throw that out only because I want us to be thinking about how the abutters experience this project in all 4 seasons, without just sort of too quickly saying, let's go evergreen, let's go arborvitae or something, because I think we have too many green plants all around Winchester as it is. So, use them where we have to, I feel.
Yeah, the ones in this corner here also will help to screen the electrical equipment for the photovoltaics, which is located here. So it does double duty that way.
Jay, I wonder if Neil has got his audio figured out.
I haven't seen him pop in yet.
Neil, he's there, he's elevated. And Neil, if you're still struggling with that, you could also, could he use Q&A? Could he use the chat function, Frank or Andrew?
It's not turned on.
Okay. We did get some written comments from Neil today that he sent to me and Jay and Meg. I think we forwarded those on to you, David.
Yes. Yeah.
So can I ask Jay, can David or Chris Sharkey sort of bring this into focus? The only real urgency about tonight, right, was finding some consensus on tree removal and pruning,
Correct.
given activity on site.
Yep.
Who can sort of speak to that? I mean, David, you've already generally described it, but in terms of what either what the OPM is looking for from us, or Meg, what you're looking for from us on that.
If I can interject, if I'm still elevated.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, this is Kyle at One Brandwood. So I just heard the words urgency and tree removal in the same sentence. And so is this the last time where we're going to have a conversation about whether we would remove the pine trees across the street from my house to the east. Yeah, the taller pines.
That's the question we're trying to find out is which ones are urgent?
I see.
There
Got
was an urgency to get some pruning done and some removal, and we need some clarification on which ones they need to know about tonight.
I see. But beyond that, there might be some decisions later to remove others.
It's going to be an ongoing, yes,
Yeah, okay,
growth suggestion.
okay, thanks.
And my understanding
Chairman.
is Brate has an arborist that was going to be coming out at some point soon to do some work. And so there's an opportunity to loop this work in with that, but also before they really mobilize with a lot of equipment and get into lay down areas, you kind of want to get in with the truck and the equipment and take trees down. It's just the natural order. Chris Sharkey is nodding, but
Yeah, sorry to interject. That would just be our kind of recommendation to get on site before the steel is up and before cranes are kind of rolling around with the steel. And so if you just need some bigger trucks for some tree removal kind of in that north side or some of these things, some of those pines, then I think it would just be our recommendation to kind of get going on that.
So the pruning, the north side, does it include, like Kyle asked, the pines that down in Brentwood? Is that something, it looks like we could get that from the street, so those could stay for now, or they don't really look like they're in the way of construction unless I'm,
No, I don't think they would be necessarily in the way of construction. I think you would just be mobilizing twice.
right.
Jay, I think Mark had his hand up.
I just saw that and it went away. Mark, do you have a question?
I was just gonna say what Chris said. It's multiple mobilizations. That's all. And I know David was trying to be respectful of the budget by proposing all of it at once as one scope of work.
Right.
I think the only tree that I would consider to be of relative urgency is that tree out on the corner that is currently highlighted in that photo. Yes, only because that interferes with the temporary power
Right.
line that needs to get drawn onto site. Now, Braid is able to trim some of those trees, but if the whole tree is coming down, I think it would be easier to just remove it all in one go.
Right, and by the looks of it, I don't think that's one that's in question anyways, to leave around. Neil, are you on now? Neil's got his hand up.
Neil, we're not able to hear you. You're not on mute, but we're just not picking up your audio. Jay, can I ask Mr. Johnson, is the concern around tree removal that we would make a decision tonight and there would be no further tree removal, or does he have concerns about any specific tree he would rather not see us take down right now? And I apologize if he spoke to that earlier. I'm in a lot of
No.
background noise where I am. It was hard for me to hear.
Thanks. No, I'm not. Regarding the removal, no. My concern isn't that something's about to get removed that I don't want removed. It's that that things might stay that might be better removed.
So I appreciate that. I know Geeta has her hand up. If it helps us move along here in a moment, I mean, I'm comfortable with David's recommendations tonight on tree removal and pruning. Yeah.
I am too. Let's see what Geetha, and then we have Andy. Unless Neil is on. Do we have Neil yet? Let him go first.
Yeah, sure.
Neil, are you available?
Neil is on. We're just not able to hear him.
Geetha, why don't you?
Right, I
ask your
just have a
question?
quick question. Just wondering, I guess, with the tree improvements, I guess Juan Larson pointed out maybe some areas if we couldn't do it on the side of the lynch, whether there would be some options it would be considered on the other side to give any of the requirements. That was sort of a thought, just asking. if there's some restriction that we cannot plant anything, would it be some consideration given by coming on the other side? Would it give the need that they're looking for?
Right.
And the other one, the pedestrian bridge, any thoughts of any tree removal we need to do it up there? Is that considered at this time? In the area?
We didn't,
Mhm.
yeah, we didn't, that I don't think has been staked out. I didn't witness that layout when I was there. The pedestrian bridge, I can move, let me see if I can move this and flatten.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think I can't unflatten it because it's downsized, but yeah, no, there might be some pruning over there. I know that that's going to be really governed by the order of conditions with conservation.
Mhm, mhm.
So it's going to be only as needed to construct the bridge. So I think that'll be done as part of the bridge construction, not as a clearing operation.
All right. Maybe a question, just the pump house, I know the footings, the drawing shows as if to be left in place. I know we are considering the trees, but any second thought at this point, considering there could be some proposed road coming just along the edge, by leaving it there is still the right decision, or just asking? Mhm. The footings are supposed to be remain in place. That's how the drawing shows. Maybe a question to OPM, not to you or David, but just
Yeah.
because we had this slide. Mhm.
Andy or Mark, can you answer that?
Yeah, just something.
That is something I'd have to look into, Geeta.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm on the same page as you. The drawings do show it as existing to
Yeah.
remain.
One time when I was there,
Yeah.
I could see one side of the wall is exposed, but I think, we have the proposed road going that way and could be heavy trucks going, right? I don't know, but anyway, something would take it to. And the other question, I know Andy was very helpful. I did go into the folder. My question is, when the existing buildings are removed, I did see a note, the foundations and slabs are coming out, but I didn't quite catch, how are they planning to bring the grades back up? Would it be an engineered fill as well? Mhm.
Chris, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah.
Chris
Say it again,
Tucky?
Andy?
Yeah, not off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I'd have to circle
Okay.
back.
yeah. I did
Um,
capture from your weekly report, yes, the foundation are coming out, that's great, but I didn't know because we would have structures going in, like drainage structures and whatnot. So I thought what's the game plan to bring the grades back up, Mhm.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I just don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'll
Okay.
say that I'll have to circle back on that one.
Yep,
All right.
just let us
Okay.
know.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, do we have Neil on yet?
I'm relaying.
Okay.
I'm the radio officer for Neil tonight. He's just been texting me. So first thing, David, he says, nice job. Appreciates all the hard work. Neil just has a couple of questions, and if you don't have answers tonight, we could follow up. He's in particular curious about the maples across from house number 1 through 5, whether or not they can come out. He suggests the maples are in pretty bad shape between 1 and 5. He agrees about the maples further up the street. Says he agrees with and is on board with the roadies along Brantwood, but there's particular interest in those that are across from house number 1 through 5, and not sure if you're able to pick that up based on your plan.
Yeah, so this is 1 here,
Okay.
right? And this is 3 and this is 5. So we're talking about, and he's referring to this area, which
Yeah.
has some deciduous, I think they must be maples that are facing the Brantwood Road side of the band of trees. The majority of these in here, I think, are pines. You actually can see the difference in the tree symbols. But so we didn't see any of of these as hazardous. They were, you know, existing, remaining, not hazardous to, I mean, they've been existing there for many years relative to Brentwood Road, and relative to the proposed improvements on the school site. We didn't see them as hazardous, so that's why we didn't mark them for removal. Our approach is to take a minimalistic approach to removing trees, and because you can always take more down, but I don't want to be, you know, taking any more than we have to unless there's a reason to.
Okay. Well, I don't know if it's an opportunity for for Hill to maybe take another look and some pictures, Chris Sharkey. But there just seems to be some concern about some in particular across the street from those addresses. The other thing that Neil just wanted to reiterate, and it gets to Mr. Johnson's concern, is the concern about headlights there at the head end parking. Although it's something Mr. Johnson's dealing with because he lives right across the street. Neil was just pointing out for everybody who lives on that street, as they're driving down the road or out for a walk or what have you, they're going to see that. So whatever we can do to kind of mitigate that would be appreciated by really everybody on Brentwood Road, beyond Mr. Johnson. So I think I picked up most of Neil's comments, but Neil, if I forgot anything or missed something, just email us and let us know.
On that note, if it's, we're dealing with headlights and stuff, would we introduce some sort of,
Something architectural?
yeah, architectural, something, 4 foot, 5 foot fence or something, not a chain link, but something.
Yeah.
If we're really, and I see the point, cars pulling in at night, the headlights are
Yeah.
shooting across the street.
Yeah.
So decorative, something there, so
Yeah.
maybe we can look at that also.
So Jay, I just have a question. I guess it's for Chris Sharkey or Andy. How would this be packaged? Is this a change order?
Sorry.
So go
Go
ahead,
for it,
Chris.
Andy. I'll
So
defer to you.
Typically, we will put them together, send it out as either an ASI or a CCD to Bright Builder to price. I think we can get a turnaround pretty quickly on the price on these.
You think we can have it for next Monday?
Next Monday,
We're
I can
meeting with-
ask.
I
Okay.
highly doubt it that they would be able to turn it around that quickly, since they would need to go back to their subcontractors as well, Jay,
Okay.
but we'll definitely push for it.
And I don't want to, make you have to come to that meeting either, but if it was something we had on Meg's letter, we could address.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So
No,
Jay, if it's
absolutely, we'll
helpful,
push for it.
I'm happy to make a motion that we direct the our architect to prepare either architect supplemental instructions or a construction change direct for the tree removal and pruning as presented by Warner Larson this evening. Defer to the project team in terms of which way they want to approach it in terms of documentation.
okay, anyone second?
Second.
Mark? Is that Mark? Or Brian?
It was Mark.
Mark, thanks. All right, we gotta do a roll call. So, Frank,
Aye.
Lisa,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Todd,
Aye.
Geetha.
Yes.
Okay, John is not present. Colleen,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and Emily.
Yes.
Okay, you have your directive. Go ahead and price it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jay, just a point of order here, we're gonna get pricing and then do we need to vote to approve the work actually getting done?
We will, because we'll need the price. So we'll have to approve that price unless we did one now with a not to exceed, but I'd rather, not do that.
Okay, so that'd be an ASI, wouldn't it, Andy?
Yes.
Correct.
This has time to come back with the price.
We won't do CCDs.
Yep, okay, great.
All right, we're gonna move on. We have, I think we covered the next steps because we're gonna get the change order request to us. Springtown meeting warrant and the new Morocco. Frank, are you gonna handle your letter?
I'm sorry, Jay, say that again.
Do you want to address your letter to the
Sure.
EFPBC and the school?
Yeah,
committee?
sure. So, not to read it to you because you can all read, obviously. I wanted to notify the EFPBC that in January, the school committee took formal action to vote its intention to submit a statement of interest to the MSBA for Morocco Elementary next year when the core program window opens for statement of interest. It's generally, as you know, a little after this time of year right now. The committee voted that unanimously. And as we know, the MSBA process is both thorough and can take some time. So as we kind of think about Lynch and when the statement of interest were first submitted for Lynch and Morocco at the same time, actually, and when it was we were finally invited for eligibility for the Lynch project with the MSBA, it took quite some time. So we think this is the right next move. We've done some preliminary enrollment projections, primarily for our budget purposes, but we would really, we're requesting that the FPVC give consideration to putting an article on the Springtown warrant for a master facilities plan update to include a full enrollment study that would build on the work that has been done with the UMass Donahue Institute that we just completed, again, really for just short-term budget purposes. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or Chris, please hop in if I missed anything.
Frank, I'm sorry, I had a little background noise here. You were asking me to address that as well.
You want to add to it?
Missed it, yeah.
Yeah, so just a brief word. We the district has been actually really good about doing a facilities master plan every 10 years. The reception by the MSBA has always been very, very strong. The district actually has in particular, a very strong reputation with the MSBA of being a very planful district. And when we last submitted our SOIs on Lynch and Morocco, we were about 90% done with the master plan. We told them it was in a final draft form. You know, we submitted the SOIs. We told them we'd be sending the final master plan when it was done, and we did that. And they were very appreciative and frankly kind of impressed by it. A lot of detail there. And our projections around enrollment, our understanding of housing, I think was really key to that process as well, and super important for the success of this Lynch project. So just given that we are on the backside of COVID and districts across the Commonwealth are trying to get sort of a bearing on what enrollment trends look like, it will be super important that we get that updated 5 and 10 year enrollment demographic study. We typically do that with a master plan, but that would be part of the message to town meeting. I think the finance committee would be interested in that as well, just because the schools are the lion's share of our town budget. And well, most of our spending is just driven on supporting students. So having an idea about what enrollment looks like, especially if we have some indication on which parts of town that enrollment is coming. So then that ties into things like our housing production plan, 40B development, et cetera. I think it's going to be really useful. So we last actually funded, so the current master plan was started in 2016 and it was officially completed in 17. We actually got funding for that in 2014 and 2015. So, you know, it's been basically 10 years. So you guys got under separate cover, I think from Jay, some recommended language. The deadline for submitting articles for the warrant for Springtown meeting is this week on Friday, the 15th. So our recommendation from Frank and from me is that the committee vote to submit that language that you have there in the memo for the spring warrant. And if we do that tonight, Meg will review that with management. It's very similar in terms of form to what we've done 10 years ago and 10 years before that. So pretty standard stuff. And then should we choose to do that, I think there'll be other public boards and committees who'd be interested in that. And I expect very supportive of that intention. We would then come back to the committee, I mean, perhaps as soon as next week with some actual motion language. So you remember from the whole solar process months ago, right? You have to submit an article. That's the first threshold, and then you submit the motion language, and then you can develop background language. So, you know, one foot before the other. So yeah, that's kind of that's the story.
And they would probably put together a subcommittee too to work on it with other, like we did.
Oh
in the
yeah,
past.
we had a really robust master plan
Yeah.
working group the last time, and it included not only EFPBC members, but it included representatives from the school committee, the administration, the finance committee, the planning committee, town planner was involved, so and the select board. And so when that whole process was finished, it wasn't, quote, the school's master plan. I mean, it really felt like our master plan, like collectively. And that was a good process. So yeah, we have a ways to go before, you know, we get there. But if this was to be funded at Springtown meeting, presumably by free cash, the money wouldn't even be available till July 1st. So, you know, we could advertise, get somebody on board in like
Right.
June, start the enrollment demographic study over the summer, maybe do some existing conditions work. But really the exciting stuff would really start in the fall.
Now, I'll just add to that, in the past, I mean, going back to 2006 and Don was on longer than that, it was always the EFPBC that got it going and worked with it. It was just the last one was due to high school workload and everything else was sort of bypassed and sidetracked. So it has always been in this committee's favor to take care of this in the past.
Yep.
We have a question for Mark and then Richard. Mark?
Based on at least the two past ones escalated, do you have any understanding of the cost of that master plan exercise? And has the funding source typically been free cash, or is there some other source that has been used in the past to fund it?
Yeah, so I'll do my best to answer that. I hope you can hear me okay. So the last time we funded the master plan, it was $85,000. When the master plan was completed, we brought on the UMass Donahue Institute to do an independent third-party review of the enrollment projections. So they were not, we had enrollment projections done with Flansburgh. We brought in a third party. I think their fee was around $18,000 at the time, but they're very thorough. We like their process. They also contract directly with the MSBA. I mean, ideally, I think Frank and I would like to have them on board, to be honest with you. So yeah, we have a rough idea about what this could cost, and it's something on the order of around $140,000, with about 40 set aside for the enrollment demographic piece. That leaves 100 on the table, you know, for the architectural team. But again, the responsibility for the enrollment demographics, that includes looking at housing production plan, right? That includes looking at building permits. That leaves a substantial amount on the table. And some preliminary feedback we've gotten from some firms is that seems like a pretty reasonable amount, you know, for the scope of this. And then I think your other question was, how have we funded it in the past? So in some years, one of the stabilization funds has made some contribution towards it. I believe the last time one of our funding sources was from free cash. This is it's not really a building project, of course, it's a master plan. It's not an annual recurring thing, so it's not a part of the operating budget. So free cash would be kind of an obvious thing to go for a one-time thing like this.
Okay. Richard?
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Would there be any detrimental effect to waiting 6 months, say? I'm just to do the study. I'm just wondering if part of the what you want to find by the study is the enrollment effects, particularly of the 40B projects on Cambridge Street and River Street. It's my understanding that those are not fully occupied projects right now. Maybe Meg knows that. And I'm just wondering if we started this in the fall instead of going ahead with the spring, would there be any detrimental effect on potentially moving Morocco forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. Frank and I have talked through this a lot and with others. So we actually feel like there would be some detriment, Richard. And the reason is that when that window opens in January to submit Morocco, we need to actually have that SOI ready. And so the SOI needs to make a case for the building, and particularly on the issue of enrollment. I mean, the physical condition, that won't be an issue because we know the building, right? But in terms of current and projected enrollment, we're going to need that information. And the feeling is, remember, if we get this funded at Springtown meeting, the money's not even available till July 1st. So then, we might have a team. I mean, it'd be great if you have somebody on board working July 1st. That may not happen, right? They may not, just because people are busy. It may be like middle of July, end of July. And I envision kind of August, September, people are really getting to work, and it's the middle of the fall and we're starting to get some preliminary reads. But then remember, to submit in January, there's weeks worth of work to do. So the feeling actually is we should strike now and do this. The school committee, and Frank can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we talked about this last summer. We actually had some interest in even making a request for this at Fall Town meeting, the one we just had. We held off on that. Frank actually is working with UMass right now for some more sort of short-term enrollment work, like literally like next year. So the district administration felt like, let's just focus on what's going on next year and the year after that, and then we'll come back and in the spring and ask to do that. So yeah, I mean that was the thinking. I asked Frank to weigh in if he feels I missed anything, but the timing of this actually I think feels right.
And the architectural scope of work on this, would that be looking potentially at other sites for Morocco? And where would that, what would be the scope of that part of the project?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And what I recommend you and anybody else on the committee who hasn't looked at it in a while, if you go to the lynch2025.com website and you actually click on the master plan link, you can get a sense of kind of that level of detail. It's very, very high altitude, Richard. So that master plan would, for instance, tell us if does a new Morocco need to accommodate 460 kids or 560 kids? And what are the
that would be an
options
important
on,
number. Yeah.
what are our options on the site that we have? And then what are our options someplace else? Because we know the MSBA is going to make us look at that. And the only real obvious option would be Leonard Field, but that's something that we're just going to have to look at. But it's literally just going to be almost like a figure field diagram. We're talking about just blocks of color, that represent a 2-story building, a 3-story building. It's really not conceptual design. I don't I don't know if Mark Scott has another suggestion about how to describe it. It's really high level.
Okay.
Any other questions on this?
So I'm happy to make a motion that the EFPBC submit an article on the spring warrant for funding of an update to the 10-year facility master plan, including the updated enrollment demographic study as presented in the memo.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, roll call. Frank?
Aye.
I was gonna say, I hope so. Brian?
Yes.
Todd?
Aye.
Etha?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Mark? Okay, Richard?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And Emily?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
Jay, this is where I got to jump off the PC and jump on my phone. So I'll see you on the flip side in a couple of minutes
okay.
when I get into the car.
We're
Thanks.
moving on
Appreciate it.
to payments anyways, so. Okay,
Hey, ready?
Meg, we're ready, Meg.
Okay, so, yeah, sorry about the attachment today. My scanner was not cooperating. Anyways, we have two we only have invoices today, so 2 from Triumph. The reason we keep getting 2 in a row from Triumph, they've been having they had a new invoicing accounting system installed, and they were having trouble getting out their invoices. So we're playing catch up, but we're now caught up. But these are their monthly rental invoices. The next one is the Harbor Networks monthly invoice for IT to the Parkhurst. We have Great Builders application number 3 for $1,276,004.18. Reed's Ferry, the invoices for the storage shed that was approved some time ago. We just got the invoice for that for the Parkhurst. RB Allen, I'm not really sure what this is for. Andrew, can you remind people what this is for?
Which one's that, Meg?
The RB Allen invoice for $755. Oh, this was fire department.
Bucks, right?
Yeah, yep. Now it's coming back to me. So this, yeah, was this was something that the fire department required for the Parkhurst, so that's $755. And then we have Tape's monthly invoice and Hill's monthly invoice. And that is it.
Yeah, the only question I had, Meg, was when the brake builders, when it comes with the larger one, I guess normally it comes with the attachment. Maybe it's just the scanning. It didn't, just only had one page. That's the only comment that they had.
Meg
Yeah,
sent
no,
it back
I sent
out,
that
Geetha.
I sent that back out with the attachment.
Okay, it was.
Yeah, it came from me. The one I sent earlier that to Jay,
Okay.
I sent that out just to get it out.
Okay.
But I sent you an email later with the full attachment.
I see. Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
see that. That was the one I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah,
I
Emily had
thought
caught
they
it right away. I hadn't even opened it and Emily caught it, so.
I know.
Okay,
I knew it wasn't there. I knew I was gonna get a
Yeah.
question on it, but I just wanted to get it out and then
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
I make the
Yeah, so
motion
you
to-
have all
Mhm.
all I don't know, 70 some odd pages.
Yeah, yeah.
58 pages.
Mm.
For
I'm
break.
ready to make the motion, Jay, if you like.
All right, Geetha, thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone second?
Good.
Mark? All right, we'll do a roll call on this. Frank?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Todd?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
And is Chris on?
I don't think he's back on.
Yeah,
yet.
we're not back on yet. Richard?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And Emily?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Andrew, do you want to update on the groundbreaking ceremony? Just the date, I guess, for now.
Sure. Yes, that'll be on March 22nd at 2:30 p.m. It'll be on the Horn Pond Brook side of Lynch. So we'll be using that entrance and it'll be basically right at that bridge area. They'll be opening up the gates and clearing an area that will have a podium and some dirt with shovels, and it'll be a good time. So
Best way to spend a Friday afternoon, right?
yep, hopefully good weather.
Snacks, Andrew.
No snack.
Yeah.
Quick hit. Yep.
I vetoed the snack.
We'll save that for the ribbon cutting. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. WHS, Jim, Meg, you're on again. Update.
So the select board, I think Chris updated you at the last meeting, but the select board approved. I can't remember where the funds are coming from, but
It's
I
a
believe
bunch of everywhere.
yeah, it's a bunch
Yeah.
of everywhere. So I put together an RFP and advertised it, and it's available to go out this week for to hire an architectural firm. So I will send a lot. The draft is complete. I just needed to finalize a few attachments. So I'll send this off to the committee just for your review. It is a completed draft, so it's just an FYI. But proposals are due on March, I believe it's 28th. So it's a very quick turnaround. And then we'll get, 10 a.m. on the 28th. And as soon as I receive the proposals, we will review and make a decision. I'm assuming, we're gonna move forward with Tape Architects because they've been working on this project, but we had to go through this procurement process in order to meet the requirements of the law, general laws. And then we'll move into final design and have enough information to, seek funding at town meeting. Fall
Town meeting?
Fall town meeting.
Fall town meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so there won't be, so would it be a joint article, Meg? Is that the decision was?
In the fall, I don't know yet who will be sponsoring this. It depends on really probably where the funding is coming from, but it's a little too early to determine that. Yeah, it'll go through the capital cycle and or just the review process of different parties on deciding on how to fund it. Because we have an estimate of what it's gonna cost, but
Yep.
no one's committed the funds quite yet.
Okay.
All right, any questions for Meg? Oh, Mark does. Come on, Mark.
Not related to the gym, but related to the high school. Meg, can you just give us a quick update on status of the work on the floors and the structure?
Yeah, let me find out. Let me pull up an email here. Hold on. So SG&H has been coordinating with Chris specifically to get into the school. Whoops. Sorry about that. Yeah, get out my newly painted wall. So on March 7th, which was last week, the grade beam survey in the basement occurred. On March 12th, which is tomorrow, there'll be an initial survey of the standing water in the basement. On March 16th and 17th, they're going to core 6 concrete samples on the 2nd and 3rd floors, including 1 location in the gym, and removal of a large concrete spall in the basement. And then their subcontractor will be in on the 16th, which is covered there. Never mind, that's just a side note. So a lot's going on. Some's already happened, and some more work will happen next week. And then they'll begin to, put together. We'll have a meeting, an internal, staff meeting with them to get the results of that and start to talk about what they're thinking about for their recommendations, and then they'll move forward into schematic design.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next week, Mark, also the second meeting of the month, we'll have Chris on. We're just not, wasting his time on the Lynch School. More detail. Okay, next scheduled meetings are March 18th, which will be payments, authorizations, and high school information. And then we'll go back to the 8th and the 22nd of April for our regular meetings. Any questions? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There you are, Chris. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, Frank?
Aye.
Brian?
Yes.
Todd?
Aye.
Geetha?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Mark? Yes. Richard?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And Emily?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you,
week.
Ted.
Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks all.